Design and art. Where's the difference? Where's the line? You can say design gives answers and art asks questions. But both forms of visual expression can be used as a commentary on society, provoke thought, raise questions. Today I'm talking to a man who's successful in both fields, Eike König, a designer and artist. An hour before meeting him, I sat in a cafe around the corner of his studio working on taking in my obscenely high daily dose of caffeinated beverage, and I found myself surrounded by Eike's works. The walls of the cafe were covered in framed posters and fine art prints. Here you find a typographic poster questioning your consumer-centric hipster lifestyle. There you see a Rodin-like statue portrayed in simple strips of black tape. And that's a pretty good image for Eike's work. You don't necessarily have to find him in a museum, a gallery, or a highbrow design studio. You're supposed to find him in your favorite cafe, store, your home. In his artworks, he uses techniques of typography, pop art, and contemporary design. His work is celebrated for its conceptual, emotional, and visual approach. Sweeties, sweet spotters, and sweet people, how are you? Are you looking for the sweet spot of your brand or a design strategy? You've come to the right place. I'm your host, Marc Suess, and for this episode of the Sweetspot podcast, I talked to Eike König, a world-renowned German designer, artist, and founder of the Berlin-based creative collective Hort. Eike had great success over the years with international clients such as Bauhaus Museum, Nike, and Microsoft. Today, he lives in Berlin, lectures at University HFG Offenbach, and increasingly devotes himself to free artistic work. I met Eike in his studio and atelier in Berlin-Kreuzberg, which you can maybe hear a little bit in the background of our talk where his team was finishing and packaging artworks. Eike combines contemporary aesthetics from the world of graphic design with big-scale canvases, craftsmanship, and messages that are a commentary on our media consumption, globalization, consumerism. He blurs the line of art and design and pop culture, and I love it. I've been very much looking forward to this talk because Eike has been a big influence and inspiration for me studying design and founding my own studio. So we talked about his creative life and work, his inspirations and routines, if and where he draws a line between design and art, and as a teacher, what his advice to creatives and entrepreneurs is for the future. So without further ado, enjoy my talk to Eike König.
Welcome to the Sweet Side. This is the Sweet Spot podcast with Marc Suess, investigating entrepreneurship, purpose, and the creative life.
Eike, nice to have you on the show. Welcome to the Sweet Spot podcast.
Thank you so much. Why is it named Sweet Spot?
Because of my design studio, I help brands and people find their sweet spot.
Very nice.
And my last name is Suess, which means sweet in English.
Oh,
so
perfect.
it's a good match.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, Eike, it's Tuesday morning in your atelier and studio space in Berlin. Would you like to tell us how you start your day usually? Do you have specific routines to get your creative juices flowing?
I mean, since I'm a father, a lot of things have changed, especially the daily routine.
Yeah.
The windows I can really focus on work are just smaller than they used to be before. So I think my regular day starts during the week at 7:30. And then we have to get our son ready for kita, Zähne putzen,
yeah,
brushing teeth, all the rituals you're trying to install in his life, and then combine it to the rituals of your life. And then around 9:30, I arrive here in the studio, and then I usually try to start very slow, reading something or putting some music on, putting the lights on, getting the right temperature in the studio, feeling comfortable. But like I said, with our child, I mean, as the window is from around 9 to 4 when I'm picking up again. I'm way more structured and organized in using my time. It's not a to-do list I'm preparing the day before, but in a way in my head I have things I have to do, and I try to do them as fast as possible so I can spend more time without having any specific task I would like to fulfill. It's not like that I have a specific ritual to get into a specific creative, whatever that means, mode. It's more. I mean, I'm constantly thinking and recording things and putting things on in lists and then looking back at them and then making decisions on the content I've created or I recorded, and then suddenly I get into an idea and then I reflect on that idea and be critical. Is it worth to be done or not? And a permanent process of thinking and doing.
Because that's my next question. You work as a designer with your own studio. You're an artist and you are a professor at HFG Offenbach. And I can understand how these jobs are connected, but I wonder what your personal creativity looks like. How do you manage your resources? Do you have like a fixed schedule when you do studio work and design work and artworks, or do you have the freedom to follow your intuition and your flow?
I mean, that's a lot of things beside being a father.
Yeah,
that's also part of my daily life. But when I accepted my professorship at Offenbach back in 2011, I had to make a decision regarding the budget of time I have, and it's only 100%. Even if you think you can add some percentage to it, but it's only 100%. So in the beginning of my teaching time, I tried to combine studio and teaching. And I remember I was super stressed during that time, being at the university, having lunch break, and then checking my emails, answering emails, phone calls, and so on. The same in the evening, and I just figured out if I mix this up, it just doesn't work, because I won't be there 100%, and I won't be in the studio 100%. And so I made this decision. Okay, if I'm going to university, that's 2 days in a week. I just don't do any studio work.
Yeah,
so I had to
separate.
restructure the studio, switching responsibility to different people, also stepping out on different tasks of the studio, just to get the time I need to have for really being really teaching there, like without having my mind somewhat in Berlin on a job that might burn at the moment. And that just took a while, but it worked out perfectly. We have our studio manager here, Lizzie. She's taking care of everything regarding jobs, and that helps me for sure. Just to get my mind free, but at the same time, the way I'm working here with the people, with the team, is always responsibility on the person who's taking care of the job, and so I think since 2011 I'm stepping out more and more from the studio's daily work. I'm still involved in certain moments of projects, during the process, but at one point I'm nearly stepping out totally, and I only get reviews every week or every 2 weeks. So I think my studio works nearly without me.
Okay.
And that's a perfect how you can say circumstance, or no, to also have my artistic career.
Yeah.
Because I think I can't really run all three, for sure, not at the same time. I'm also trying to focus during the we call it Vorlesungszeit, when I have to be at the university or when I'm at the university. I'm really focusing on university. And then there's a semester break, and that year is in quarters. So nearly half a year, I really can focus on my artistic practice, and the other half I'm focusing on university. So I'm trying to do like my exhibitions. I'm trying to do in the semester breaks, and also most of my artistic production I'm trying to do when I'm not at the university.
Yeah.
But for sure, it also mixes up somehow, because I'm only in Offenbach for 2 days, so there's still 3 days.
Sure.
But you know, it's always especially during the last 2 years with pandemic and teaching digitally. I'm so often now on video calls with students, with groups, with the university, the institution, with colleagues, way more than I used to be when I was in Offenbach.
Yeah. So
my day is somehow also split up in an hour video call. Mm-hmm. And I definitely need a couple of hours to do artistic work. That's my problem.
Yeah.
You know, I can't do that I do now 15 minutes and then I do something else.
Yeah.
I really need to have it as a block of time, because it needs time to prepare. It needs time to dry. It just, the way I'm doing these things, I'm doing it by hand. So, it all follows somehow, the time that is, programmed into the making, you know, or into the material, you know, how long it needs to dry, all the things I cannot force, I cannot, speed up. So yeah, it's a little bit more, like I said, it's way more structured nowadays since it used to be before, when I wasn't a father,
sure,
when I,
sure.
you know,
floating around. Yeah, sure, of course.
I just could, you know, my day was an open, it was an open end.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But I get that. And I think it's interesting how you talk about structure and timing, because on the one hand, you can learn it from your kids, and also artworks. There's a saying, you have to put in like 4 or 5 hours for your art to get like a good half hour out of it, with all the preparation, getting into your groove, and then working, and then you maybe get 20, 30 really good minutes. Yeah. So there's so much we need to talk about. I want to start with your artworks. To me, when I look at your art, it feels like the artworks feed off of your experience as a designer and vice versa. You even have made design guidelines for your artworks, for some of them, with working with the same canvas sizes and a strict typography and all that. What's, in your opinion, for you personally, the difference between art and design?
When I'm doing art, I'm doing art, and when I'm doing design, I'm doing design. Mm-hmm. It's hard to. I mean, you can describe it as design. Design creates solutions, and art asks questions, or there is there's someone asking you to solve a problem, and then you design something for him or for her to solve this problem. So that's applied in a way. You know, you have a business relationship with someone who's paying you to do things, and when I'm doing art, no one is really, you know, giving me the task to do something. It all comes out of yourself, and also the topics, the questions I'm researching in are just different ones than if a company comes to me. And often if a company comes to you, then the question is somehow already asked or already shaped in a way, and And in my artistic work, there's nothing. There's a black hole in the beginning, and then and it all. I mean, it's quite hard to. And then for sure, in which context it's placed. Like a branding for a company has a specific context in which it's coming alive and breathing and is used, and my work has a different environment also, where it's contextualized, in galleries or institutions or maybe even Instagram. So, and like you said, I'm still using methods of graphic design and also strategies in branding in my artistic work. So it influences each other, vice versa, and that's why also if you know where I'm coming from, then you know why I'm doing this. It's absolutely clear to see how this artistic practice could have developed out of the design practice I have been doing for 30 years.
Yeah. And you always were an artist on the side. I read about you, or you did art on the side.
Yeah,
however you define it, but you always did also art and freelance creative expression. What I'm interested in is, it seems like you are very close, and there's different conceptual approaches. One is asking questions, giving answers. That's completely understandable, but your tools are similar and still the concepts are very different. So how does it feel to you between somewhere in between chairs? How do clients react with you in your studio if they see you're an artist? Or how does the art world react to a designer doing art and he approaches it like a design? I really like that, but I can believe it's not everyone is a fan automatically.
Yeah. I definitely have haters for sure. And a lot of people don't say it's not art what I'm doing.
It's always good to have haters, right?
And but sometimes it hurts also, but and I mean I have I think the applied world is very happy about that. That I'm also researching in different fields and asking different questions and sometimes also I get asked by commercial clients to work together with them as an artist. So there is this
blurring lines,
blurriness perfectly. I did a campaign, a huge campaign with Converse for the Gay Pride, and where people could download artworks from me and then print it out and use it on their walks and definitely I support a lot of things where I feel like I like the idea behind it. I like what it does for community, what it does for society, without just selling something. Like what adds it to the product. Yeah. And then I'm very happy to contribute and do it as an artist and not as a designer. Mm-hmm. So I think the consumer world, but also art is. You also consume art, and there's this idea that art is higher than applied design, and I'm questioning this all the time. Design has a massive impact on our daily life. We interact permanently with it, and our life is structured by design. Our life, not everyone's life, but my life, definitely. And also, art, for sure, we have institutions, museums, where we put art in and then glorify it. And we have the art market with, extreme, prices, where you don't know where they're coming from. It's totally spectacular speculation on what it is worth for a society or for us, and so also art is a product in the end, and it used to be also a product. You know, people were asked to do art and get paid for that, but I'm not sure. I think the art market was not waiting for me. You know, like I'm not the one that everyone was like, oh, now here he is.
Okay,
you know,
but what is the art world actually waiting for? Yeah, you just have to push in.
And I think for a certain bubble of the art world, I'm completely a ghost. You know, I'm just not interesting enough, or I'm too old, or I do work that doesn't fit to the bubble they are involved in. You know, the topics and so I know that. You know, it's not like that I'm completely naive and sit here in my studio completely frustrated that a certain group of I don't know, magazines or galleries are not getting interested in working together with me or writing about me. No, I'm absolutely clear that that's okay, and that is not just okay. It's really okay that it is like this, because I have to find my own. But that's what I always. Or how I figured out during my life, I always have to find the audience, the people I can work with. You know, it's not. I don't want to, you know, be able to be liked by everyone or can work for everyone. Also in my design practice, I have a specific attitude to it, and that does not match to every client. And it's a similar thing in the art world. But it's quite interesting, because since 2013 now, I'm focusing a little bit more on the art, and I'm trying to learn, you know, understand how it works, what language to use, how to brand myself, how to, you know, how to work with galleries together, making projects with them, organizing myself a little bit, or managing myself a little bit more independently than maybe artists have done that before, and it's very, I can learn a lot from that, even by not failing, but feeling like not, being a ghost sometimes. It's also good to see, okay, that's a road I cannot walk. I have to find my own road, you know, and I was always doing it this way. So it feels quite, normal and, comfortable for me, you know, like, I'm unsure about where to go, but I'm brave enough to do it. You know, it feels like, I will do it. I know I will do it. And yeah, that's why.
That's very nice. So we talked a lot about the outside world, the art world, the reception of your artworks. Maybe we can peek into the inside world of your arts, because your artistic oeuvres are between, some are very entertaining, some have a lot of humor, sometimes it's a little more political, it's a commentary on media consumption, globalization, consumerism. Do you have a mission or something that really drives you when you come up with your messages you put in your artworks?
No, I don't really. I mean, I'm not having a mission or a statement I would put out, or I would like to put out. I see myself. I see my work more we call it Deutungsraum. You can interpret it differently. The way you look at it, or the background you have, or the mood you are in. You can read different things in that, and that's very important for my work, is that it's somehow open to be read in different ways. It can be humor. Yeah, sometimes it sounds a little bit like a statement I'm putting out there, but that's not my idea. I also often get back the feedback I'm getting sometimes is so different on the same piece of work that where I really enjoy what people are seeing in it, what people are reading in it, why the work touches them, and what it triggers, and so for me it's more it's in a way in a dialogue that I'm having all the time about all these topics you just named, and sometimes it's very it's very much connected to something that happens here in the world, locally or globally. Often it's more globally, and then I react on that. But like I said, my reaction can be, there can be a question mark behind it, or it's really the way you read it, like for example, a piece of work on a mirror. Who do you think you are? It has two references. The first reference is to Barbara Kruger, an artwork from her, and the second reference is to the Spice Girls. And that's what I often or always enjoy, is like what we call the high culture and the pop culture. I love pop culture a lot. I'm coming out of pop culture, but I really enjoy high culture. But I think high culture is not is often not inclusive. Is very exclusive. You need to have a certain education or knowledge to really understand high culture in its fullest, and pop culture somehow talks to you on a different level, and you can read that it's split up in 6 different frames. Who do you think you are? ? And that can be very philosophical, you look into the mirror and then you have that question, who are you really, but you also can read it like, who the fuck do you think you are? Like in a very negative, if someone asks you this, and that's what I like. It's really about, what you would like also to, or it often shows what you would like to see in it. Yeah. And that a specific moment of that understand, but it's written, and that's what I really love on not just love, but also, there's a lot of power in language, but at the same time, because it's, if I say something, it doesn't mean that the receiver will get it in the way I would like to say, so there's always this space in between where people might interpret it differently, and that's what I'm interested in. That language is, even if it's a written language where I have certain letters and everyone knows what it means as a word, the second layer of meaning or the third layer of meaning might be a total different one. And and it looks like mathematics, you can read it, but how you interpret the result of it, it's different, and that's what I really like. Yeah.
I like the openness. It reminds me a little bit of Jenny Holzer's work, for example, with the big lettering. And it's up to you. You can just read it or enjoy the aesthetics, or you can really go in and think about the medium and the message and the text.
Yeah, she's
really
amazing.
Nice.
I mean, and she's actually so active. I think because she's very political in her work. Also Barbara Kugel. But anyway, who's not political? But I think it's an important part of her artistic work. And she got more and more active in the last years, maybe because of the upcoming, or not the upcoming, but the climate change, the global warming, the things that where we are actively in right now, where we could do something, but we pretend not to do something, and that's where she's triggering hopefully a lot of minds with her work in public. That's also what is very special on her work, is that a lot of her work is can be seen in public. So it touches, it meets people who are not actively going into museums, or not actively are interested in art,
Yeah.
And I think that's it's very clever also from her.
Yeah. And it's very important. I think the more pressure there is, the more urgent topics there are, the first outlets are always music, art, the creative forces, so to speak, are always the first ones that react, I think. Yeah. Definitely. But Eike, I want to talk a little bit also about your entrepreneurial experience here with your design studio, Hort. You founded it in 1994 in Frankfurt, and you said primarily as a creative playground. And I think that's a vision or an idea that a lot of, even startups, a lot of creative studios have, but also startups, they have like this idea, and it's playful and it's very romantic. We found this company in our garage and we will change the world. And then over time, a lot of things happen. It's more responsibilities. You hire people, there's pressure from clients. But coming here today, it still has a lot of the vibes of a creative playground. How did you manage to keep that as part of the DNA of this place? Because that gets lost a lot in companies.
Yeah. I mean, I studied graphic design. I was very frustrated by my education. I think I wasn't really supported. I was more mobbed by professors and getting on. I think going to university made me really unsure about my ability to design something. But then I did this. I became an art director of a record label, and they treated me totally different. They trusted in my work. They supported me. And slowly I gained self-confidence. Yeah. And then I started in 1994. And the thing is that when I started in 1994, I was, I think, 26 years old. And I wasn't really sure about how to run a company. I wasn't, no one educated me in that, no one really told me about, what I might have to think about or what would be important. How do you work with people and all these things. It's all self-taught. And I didn't really feel like short time before, I still was a teenager, and then I was a student, and then I was an art director, and then I opened my studio, but I didn't really feel like now I'm a professional. I more felt like I still needed to have a space where I can, be in between these categories, amateur, professional, nowadays I don't see there anything in between, I know so many students are already professionals while studying, and I think I was in the same, I think I was similar at that time, but I thought, okay, until I feel like, like this idea of working was always, for me, back in the days from my parents, was always somehow negative in a way, you know, like you have to go to work. It's not really, fun.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't really make
no
you
freedom. There's
yeah,
no,
yeah. You know, you have to work to make a living. And I mean, most of the people in the world have to do that, you know, that way. But for me, that was like something in the future I will reach at one point. And all the careers my parents had in mind, or the generation of my parents had in mind, like you have to go to school, you have to study, you have to finish your studies, then you have to do some internships, and then you start as a junior, and after a couple of years working hard and getting very badly paid, you might become, I don't know, an art director or, you know, a typical career. And I was early stepping out of that. You know, I stopped studying without a diploma. I became an art director of a record company. My mother thought like, or my father thought like, what the fuck is a record company? You know, is that a serious job you're doing? You know, it's for techno music. You are going to clubs every night, and you know, that for him there was no idea that this could be a career, you know, something where you can feel excited about and feel challenged about and develop and become a personality in something. And so I think this idea of creating kind of a playground for myself was also to protect me for whatever, you know, like, and also I did some workshop with kids in England, and if you look how kids are working, what we call creatively, it's always play, you know, and when kids feel safe, they start to play. And by play, they learn, they socialize, they, you know, and if you just look at them playing and doing things and creating things and creating worlds out of nothing, you can see that this is an infinite source of creativity. This is really the source, you know, and the older we get, the more we lose this connection to this source. The more we get educated, the less we go wild in our fantasy. But when we come to this planet Earth, when we were born, it's in our DNA that we play, you know, and I thought I try to play as much and as often as possible in my work. That means, especially in the beginning, that meant that I was not focusing on a solution always in the beginning. You know, like I didn't want to optimize everything. I would like to come up for a solution in a playful way. That means I include failing. That includes like different routes, different options of playing this game, or what graphic design is. You know, like moving things, having different tools, changing my perspectives. You know, in a playful way, and that allowed me also to explore my interests, my possibilities, and by offering this kind of playground to other people. I mean, a lot of people are attached to that, you know, this idea. And then if you find the right people, it can be an incubator for amazing personalities. And I figured out that part of the studio was always like I said, the incubator for young designers to become a personality in design. Yeah, and throughout the years, more than maybe 90 young people from around the world have been working with me, and a lot have been starting their own studio after leaving Hort, and that's also the idea of Hort. Like we work together for a certain time, and then you come to this point where you feel like, okay, I have done so much together with you. I want to do my own thing now, and amazing studios, just came out of Hort. And I think I'm way more proud of that, what happened to these people than just the graphic work we have done. That's nice. I mean, that's great. But that I help people to find their inner voice and become strong and make a decision to become an entrepreneur and then succeed also with that.
Amazing.
And what we were living inside was somehow also communicated outside, like visually and maybe also in interviews. And then suddenly people want to work with you just because of that,
Yeah, of course.
And I got invited, from bigger structures, bigger companies, just to talk about the studio culture, what we,
of course,
and
because that's what all the big companies wish for, because they don't have it. They don't have that energy.
And I was very honest, because I did not construct that. It just, I was looking personally for a space like that, a working environment like that. I couldn't find that. So I thought I'd just make it by myself. So like you said, it's part of the DNA. It's from the early beginning. I did that. I was just making it the way. And if other people or other companies asking me, how can we install that in our company now? I say, like, you will not change your DNA. Even if you give the people a free Friday to do research, that doesn't work, that you will not change it,
No table soccer does that. Yeah.
Exactly. Or free pizza after 10. Sorry.
It's nice, but it doesn't change your DNA.
Yeah. But during that 30 years, now a lot of companies came up, disrupted the whole industry and started with similar approaches to how to work together with people, in a different way. Give them the freedom to develop themselves, and not just, monitorizing the time and the work they're spending there.
Also quality time.
Yeah. Give them really and that was also always also the idea for me, like, educate the people, help them, they don't really, it's not about, sure, they're working on projects and we have to sell these projects, but give it the time and the space to develop an idea that is more than just fulfilling the project. Putting another step on that, and now I can see. I mean, that was 1994, and most of the students I knew, they all went into the industry, in the advertising industry, and they all got sucked up there,
Very different culture.
And it's a different world, and there were only a few studios like mine. And now I can see that everywhere. Like, I know so many small 2-3 people studios doing brilliant work, making, fantastic work for big companies and doing similar things like I was doing back in the days, and I remember that I did a lecture in Argentina, at Rimachi. It's a huge festival. It's the biggest Latin American graphic design festival, in a stadium, in a basketball stadium. And I was talking there, and the people were standing up and clapping and seeing that it's possible to work independently, do interesting work, and have a very good relationship to the people you're working with, and being also very critical to the clients you're working with. So sometimes I still get from 2008, I still get emails from people who attended there and said, like, you changed my life. At that point, when I listened to your lecture, you changed my life. I quit my job, I started my own studio, or I changed the direction I wanted to work, or I was focusing more on, and that's also very, very nice to hear, for sure, also for your ego, but, that it also help people to find their direction, to find their place in society or in the design bubble, like where they could do or enjoy more what they are doing or capable to do without just being sucked up by the industry. Yeah. And I was always I always thought like I would like to help people to become entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, in the beginning of this talk, you said you have to split your time. You have to be more conscious on what you put your time in, and you want to pull out a bit of Hort maybe now, maybe leaving it one day. How does that feel? What do you would like to be Hort when you're gone? How do you think you can pursue this idea of the space? Or do you think it will maybe turn into something else?
Maybe it will turn to something. I mean, it has changed throughout the years so much, always depending on the people. Yeah. That was also the idea. What Hort is right now is not me. It's what the people have done, like what the people have brought in. And they shaped Hort what it is right now. In the beginning, I was completely working alone, and then for 2 years, 3 years, and then I started to have my first employee, and then it started slowly to grow, and then suddenly we were 6, 8, 12 people, a little bit too big for my point of view. I'm more the startup scene calls it pizza size. So it's 7 people, I think, that you can feed with 2 family pizzas. That's the idea. Yeah, okay. That's where communication is still possible to be organized in a direct way without a second layer of management. Yep. So, and when we moved to Berlin, I think we were in a big size when we moved to Berlin, but then we slowly cut down because people started their own business, and then because I've been working with these people for a long time already, since more than a decade, sometimes, they were more seniors, and the need to be in a studio was not there anymore on a daily basis. So it became more a collective of certain people I was working with, and then the pandemic came, and then all our cultural jobs just got canceled. People canceled contracts, and every one of this collective was somehow looking for themselves how to manage this time, and I'm not sure where Hort is heading to. I first thought the beginning of 2020, when it hit us really hard, and there was nothing to do for us. I really thought about closing it down, but then after a couple of months, Chanel asked us to do a branding for a new building in Paris, and I gathered a young team, remote, and then we started to work on this project for the last 1.5 years. Now this Thursday is the opening. I'm going to Paris now, and we did the whole branding, the wayfinding, the signalétic for it. We did the whole communication of this brand, and it was a really exciting project I was doing with these young designers, led by Lizzie here, and we met each other again last year in Paris, the first time to check the installments of the Signalétique and to meet the team from the 19M, and it was just an amazing experience again for me to have a project of this size, doing from the beginning till the end in a time like that. Yeah. So I thought maybe it's not the end of Hort. Maybe it's just a change of the way we work together again, and maybe it's less work we're doing, but it's still there, and I have asked people who have been working with for a long time if they would take over Hort at one point. Yeah. I asked them already 2013.
Oh wow.
Because I was a professor for 2 years already, and I thought like it would be good to maybe step back a little bit and maybe just be the what is it? I don't know, the grandfather of it or something.
Yeah,
you know, like still there helping if there have to be some decisions to make or something, but definitely step away from it. But they denied, and I can also understand. It's still very much me in a way, maybe it's more interesting for them to have their own business, you know, and that is not still related to Hort because, you know, that's where it came from, but it's their own, and they can, So I will not find anyone who will take over for that, you know. So somehow it will, I don't know, it will continue definitely until I feel like there's no need for it anymore, you know, like, but still we have so much response from the outside world. We still people asking us to work together with them, and I have an amazing network of creatives I can work with. So no, if it's still breathing and not just breathing, you know, it's not like in a hospital or something. No, if it's still like has soul and is like we all can enjoy it to do it, then I will keep it. Yeah, I will keep it. Yeah.
So we talked about time. Now we talked about at the beginning of the interview, you changed your perspective on your personal time with now having kids or a son, and I also think the pandemic has changed our perception of work time and speed and everything. And I read an interview with you where you also talked about the pace of design in our industry. Digitization changed the speed of design years ago, but still today, even with Instagram, with new software solutions, platforms that help even non-designers to design, I'm not saying it's conflicting, but there are different speeds. Like good art, good design still takes time. And at the same moment, you have clients and upcoming young people that are used to such a fast speed of everything. So how do you teach your students, and how do you perceive time within the studio? How do you work with that?
Yeah, that's a clash. I mean, my education was without a computer, so I'm pre-internet. I'm computer as a tool. My education was mind and hand. So everything I was doing by hand. It's also a different experience. And the whole industry was, there were a lot of people involved in a design process. and all these people were making a living out of it. So, and not a bad living. And then the computer came, and definitely it helped a lot, to make things easier and to speed up things, but it also killed a lot of jobs. Yeah. It also brought a lot of jobs together in one. You know, suddenly you were a designer, but also an operator, but also a lithograph to check. You know, like suddenly there were only digital files, and that's where I'm very critical about. You know, that technology definitely helped us and made it more easy to access and produce. At the same time, it had a massive impact on us as a society, also in a negative way. Yeah, and I know how it was, and I know how it is now. I mean, the computer as a tool, and the knowledge of and that your client knows that you're working with a computer that is fast and that can change things, whatever that means, you know, like put a lot of stress on you and time-wise, you know. So what needed before a week, suddenly you only get 2 days to do it, you know. And how can we compensate that? It's not just it's not the computer that compensates it. It's the stress that you have to compensate somehow, and that's why a lot of people also suffering from burnout. And for me, it's also connected to the digital era. And I mean, there used to be burnouts too before, but it has a different level, I think, nowadays. And this became a driving force of optimizing processes of, you know, like of time wise, you know, how fast you can print, how fast you can, you know, people are used to getting things on demand because of Amazon, and you know, everything is on demand, and that's what they expect also from design, that is on demand. When I need it, I get it. So if a client calls me and asks for a new branding, and then the first things I'm asking is, what is your budget and what is your timing? Yeah. And there are always two big things to be discussed. And when it comes to timing, our clients always have the wrong idea of how long it will take, you know? So they have an idea of a new branding, including website and launch, should be in 3 months. You know, that sounds a lot of time. But it's a joke. You know, it just does not work. It not even in a bad way it works. You know, it just does not work. So the first thing I'm saying is like, okay, that will need a year or 1.5 years, and then there's a shock, you know, like, oh my God, I timed it wrongly, you know, I planned it wrongly. How can we speed it up? And to be honest, out of my experience, and I have a lot of experience, this will need that long, you know, and you have to accept that. We are not taking as long as we want because we are artists or whatever. No, it's just the process itself, you know, like, you can split up the process in different phases, but it will need that time. And if you want to do it right, whatever right means, but you know, like that it's thought through, that it's proved, that it's tested, and so on, and so on, and so on. We can have a soft launch of your website in 1 year, and then maybe work another half a year on refining it, and then we have the real launch. And that's what we interesting, that we have to learn again that certain things need certain time. But then if you look in the startup scene, and we got asked from a startup here in Berlin if we can help them with the branding, and I visited them, and small team, having the second round of investments, a lot of money in the back, having the product, the app is already working on a beta, and there's already some design decisions made, and the question was if we can have an overall look at it and bring it together and make it round, that it works in all levels, and prepare it for communication and all these things, what they need later as a product. And then I thought, maybe we can give it a try, but the speed of a startup is just not the speed I'm used to, So I had a huge conflict in working with them, and after a week, I had to tell them, you need to have a designer in your team who's part of the whole daily process, where you change things. They always react on, they try, they change, they try to change, they try to change. And the design work I'm doing is not, I try and change. I'm not Facebook, they can do that. Google can do that. They can permanently work on their platform and try out things to optimize the money machine. But I just cannot do that as a team from the outside. And I also don't want to do that, to be honest.
That's sure.
Yeah, sure. So they all these startups, they have a new working model also in the DNA. There's a designer always from the beginning involved in giving it a shape, giving it a direction, a visual direction, and all the technical testings and the strategy changes has an impact on the design, and therefore it all works together, and we are not we as a team from the outside are just not able to work in this pace. I would feel like I'm working permanently for the trash.
I worked in the startup industry as well. I know the feeling. So, okay, speeding up. I mean, you can speed up the craft, but not a lot of creative or intellectual processes. So what I'm interested now, I read an interview with you, and you said that skill is less important than attitude and personality sometimes. And now I wonder if you're a professor, you teach young designers, young students, and maybe to every creative or designer listening to this podcast right now, what is your advice, or what would you recommend to them? What would you teach to them if you say personality and attitude is more important than skills? How do you cultivate that?
I would more like a critical citizen. No? I would like to have, that they become critical citizens and then a designer. But this skill or craft or whatever you name it, that we are talking about, is also something from the past. And you mentioned it before. Now we have presets, we have programs, we have apps, we have algorithms that design, that's coming. Machine designing is coming full force, and it's unstoppable. It's there, and it will take over a certain amount of design work. And the whole industry is somehow also killing the industry, because when Adobe starts to have setups, or that you design your own menus, artworks, logos, and so on and so on with presets. You can have an abonnement of it, and you get, I don't know, access to whatever preset you need. Then it also kills the job for a lot of designers. So that I think it's still important it's important that you learn how to design, that there's a history on design, that there are not rules, but to get an understanding where type is coming from, how it's used, in which context it's used, the history of it, but also methods in designing, color combinations and so on and so on. Everything you need to design something. That's good to have, and that's also good to practice. Every day, and just to get a feeling of what you can do with it, what you can do with image and type and format and context. But that part will be at one point probably done by a machine. And what a machine is not able to do right now is thinking. It's just I don't know. It just analyzes Tumblr and the images on Tumblr that are mostly liked, the color codes in there, the use of type, the way type is treated, and so on, and then it can replicate it, and it can create something that looks aesthetically good, as something that is mostly liked on Tumblr or something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It just can learn from that.
From the past also.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. It can only learn from the past.
Yeah.
And there is hard to make any progress or do something innovative. Yeah.
That's true. So for me, and therefore, education is definitely also preparing for a future life, like making a living out of it. And maybe joining the industry or starting your own company, but I think if you just know how to design but don't develop a personality, or have a focus on something specific, or maybe also have an attitude on design, what you would like to do or what not to do, then you're just someone who can design, and can work in all kinds of industry. Maybe that's perfect for making a living, but it's maybe not perfect for your personal development. Maybe it's not really fulfilling. And it's also exchangeable. If you are not able to do that anymore, someone else will do it. And if they, and then a machine will do it. So I think nowadays, especially nowadays, we really should focus on helping them to find something where they can, that's who I am, and that's always understanding the past, what influenced you, which cultural background do you have, understanding why you're designing this way, that's always connected to the past, how you grew up, and then also, understanding that you have the choice to give your skills to certain tasks. You can decide if I would like to work here or here or here, and then based on that become more and more aware of your own decisions of your own future, so I think my focus is, if they're really interested in design, they learn it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, like it's
a craft.
It's a craft, you know, and I can just support them and open up the world, and that they might get interested in what's happening in the scene, you know, in the contemporary design scene, and then, you know, researching by themselves, and that becomes a daily routine that they are on a daily basis thinking about or researching on whatever trends or kind of, I don't know, but that this becomes part of their praxis also, you know, not just doing things, but also reading about things, seeing things, and also I'm you know, they all become somehow competitors in the future. You know, everyone want to have a job and want to work, but I try to, I want, it's also idealistic that university is a free space in between teenager and this, you know, whatever professional means, you know, and that they should help each other, learn from each other, you know, support each other, you know, not become competitors already in the university, but, you know, maybe finding partners to collaborate, you know, like, because out of my experience, collaboration was a huge progress in my personal life, you know, like understanding that I'm not able to do everything by myself, but if I'm collaborating with someone, I can do even more. I can learn from these people, you know, making knowledge not exclusive, but inclusive, you know, sharing is caring, you know, not just from me, but, and that's a lot about personality, you know, that all comes from personality, you know, and that's why I'm focusing a lot on helping them to grow, as a person, and not just as a skilled designer, you know, that I think that's way more important, that they grow as a person. And
and I think well, thanks for that, first of all. And I think our talk has showed a lot of how you approach it in your design work as an artist, how you create a space like Hort where you maybe do this and also teach it. I hope we inspired some listeners to be more interested in this. I have two more quick questions for the end of our talk. Two questions I ask all of my guests. So the first one is, I would like to know what you read or watch or listen to right now that inspires you, or that you thought is worth talking about. Is there some book, show, movie, something you saw and that sparked some interest in you?
Oh yeah. Yesterday I was in the theater. There was an amazing piece by Ostermeyer and Schaubühne. It was a very long piece, 5 hours. That was a very good theater piece. I'm reading right now How to Stop Time. I just finished How to Stop Time. Oh, I enjoyed the book a lot. I always read fiction. I don't read other books than fiction. Yeah, I really enjoy. Yeah, a parallel to have a parallel world I can dive in.
Okay, my last question. That's a little stage time for you. What's next? Tell us about your upcoming projects, exhibition, publications, what's going on in your life.
So yeah, on Thursday is the official opening of Le 19M. It's official, but it's because of COVID, it's not official. It's limited to a very small amount of people, including the president of France. Mon Dieu, yeah. And planned is an exhibition in New York in March, but we are still discussing if that is the right time, because it was already postponed from autumn last year to March. So I'm not sure if March is already the right month to do that. But and then because the show in New York is part of 3 shows. The one I had in Genk in Belgium, and the one in Munich at Hort Gallery, and the one in New York are somehow conceptual connected, and I'm gonna do a publication about all these 3. I mean, we have plans. We are building right now a house. The whole building starts around April. Wow. When everything works out, it should start around April, and we hope that we get it done in summer. And then I think we're gonna marry there, Anna and I, and have our wedding party there. Hopefully when it's done, when it's finished. Yeah. But that's also a big project we are doing right now. We're working with amazing architects, BFK. In Berlin, and they developed a very weird house for us, and my father was building our house where my mother is still living in when I was 3. And our son is right now 3, and now we are building a house. So it's a little
Tradition,
bit,
that's so nice.
Yeah, it's a little circle that is closing right now. And, that's the big thing. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. So much beautiful stuff going on in your life.
Yeah, it's great.
Eike, fingers crossed that everything goes well with the exhibition in New York, with the building of the house, the family home. Thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for hosting me. Yeah.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Sweet people. That was my talk with Eike König. I'm very impressed with the way he blurs the lines between disciplines, going from making art to creating designs, and still always knowing exactly what he wants from a project. I think he's got a strong message for all creatives and designers out there when it comes to their responsibility and the potential of our craft. The way he builds his studio is an inspiration for team building and thinking about co-creation in general. I love talking to Eike, and I hope you enjoyed it too. That's it for this week. I'll be back next Wednesday when I talk to fractal artist Julius Horsthus about building artificial worlds and creating immersive experiences. Take care, people, and I hear you on the sweet side.
This podcast is produced by Sweetspot Studio. New episodes each week, wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you enjoyed the show, leave a rating and subscribe to never miss an episode. Find out more at sweetspot-studio.com.